She stared at the folder like it might bite her. Not with curiosity, with dread. The same woman who once lit up my world by just walking into a room now sat frozen on our living room couch, eyes wide, lips parted, silence thick. And in her lap, the manila folder I'd handed her, full of photos from her so-called girls' trip. The same trip she swore was just her and her mom. But the man in those photos, he wasn't anyone's mom. He was tall, lean, too confident in every frame, smiling like a man who had nothing to hide, and touching her like she was already his. My name's Alex. And this is the story of how I learned my fiancé never left Miami alone. We met in the kind of way that makes you believe in timing. I was stuck behind her in line at a car rental place in Phoenix. My reservation got screwed up. Hers got upgraded. She laughed at my bad luck and offered to share her SUV if I was headed in the same direction. She was sharp like that, impulsive, charming, bold enough to turn strangers into stories. Her name was Lila. She had this ability to make anything feel exciting, a grocery run, a rainy afternoon, even planning a wedding. And God help me, I fell hard. I was the type to double-check the oven twice before leaving. She was the type to light candles in the middle of the afternoon for no reason at all. We worked. At least I thought we did. About 4 months before the wedding, she told me her mom, Denise, had booked a surprise trip, a final girls' getaway before I become a wife, she said with a smile. Miami. Sun, spas, shopping. Just the two of them. I didn't blink. I even offered to upgrade their hotel as a gift. She said no, said Denise already handled it. What I didn't know then was that this would turn out to be the first lie. The first night she was gone, she texted a picture of the view. Ocean, blue sky, 2 wine glasses on a balcony table. No people, just scenery. Mom's already napping, she wrote. Spa day rector. I sent back a heart emoji. Didn't think twice. The second day? Just one text. Busy, busy. Love you. No photos. No updates. By day 3, I felt it. Not panic. Not suspicion. Something worse. Distance. The kind that stretches past words. The kind that no emoji can soften. And then the message came. From a guy I barely knew. A friend of a friend from college. Said he was in Miami for a bachelor party. Thought he saw Lila. Sent a photo. There she was, rooftop bar, sunset glow. A linen shirt man leaning into her laugh. Champagne. Touch too casual for strangers. I froze. Stared at that picture for a long time. Then I asked him if he had more. He did. Over the next 24 hours, I got 11 photos. 2 from him. The rest forwarded by people I didn't even know, all saying the same thing. Isn't this your fiancé? Not once did I see Denise in any of them. I didn't confront her right away. Didn't scream. Didn't accuse. I waited. She came back on a Tuesday. She hugged me at the airport, said the trip was good, just too short. But her hug? It was hollow. Like she was trying to remember how we used to fit. That night, she said she was tired. Went to bed early. No suitcase unpacked. No stories shared. By morning, she told me she felt off. Said she wasn't sure what was wrong, but needed time. I nodded. And then I walked into the office, pulled open the drawer, and took out the folder I'd put together over the weekend after the photos started rolling in. Manila. Unmarked. Neat. She sat at the dining table, sipping coffee like everything wasn't on fire, and I placed it in front of her. Her hand froze on the mug. What's this? She asked, her voice small. I didn't say a word. Just stepped back and watched her face fall. Not when she opened the folder, but when she realized I already knew. She didn't open it at first. Just stared at it like maybe it wasn't real. Like if she blinked hard enough, I'd take it back. But I didn't. Because the man who once believed every word she said was gone. And the man standing in front of her? He wanted the truth. Every piece of it. Even if it shattered everything. She didn't touch the folder. Didn't even lift the flap. She just kept staring at it, like it might open itself and spare her the shame. I stood a few feet away. Not angry. Not yelling. Just waiting. Because I wasn't here for a confession. I was here to see if she'd still try to lie. After a full minute, she finally spoke. I don't know what this is. That was the first lie. I could hear it in the way her voice caught. So I walked over, knelt down beside her chair, and flipped the folder open myself. The first photo was of her walking out of a boutique on Collins Avenue. Sunglasses, long legs, that little red dress I'd helped her pick out. The man was beside her, holding 2 shopping bags and wearing the kind of grin that only happens when a secret feels good. I slid it closer to her. Still, she didn't speak. The second photo was on a boat. Same guy. Same sunglasses. She was leaning against his chest, wine glass in hand. The wind caught her hair just right. It looked romantic. Not mother-daughter getaway romantic. The third was at a restaurant. Small table. Late-night lighting. Candles. Her hand was on his wrist. That's when her shoulders dropped. Not from relief. From the weight of knowing the lie was over. She didn't cry. Lila was never the dramatic type. She just closed her eyes and whispered, "It wasn't supposed to happen." That's what they always say. It wasn't planned. I didn't go there for him. I asked the question like I already knew the answer. Who is he? Her mouth opened, then closed, then opened again. His name's Tyler. We used to date. Years ago. Before you. I nodded, just once. She rushed to explain, like saying more might somehow undo the damage. He moved to Florida last year. I didn't reach out. But when my mom and I planned the trip, she mentioned he lived nearby. She thought. I cut her off. Wait, your mom knew. She froze. And that silence was worse than any answer. I leaned back slowly. So this wasn't just a spontaneous run-in? No, she said, finally. I told her I just wanted closure. To see where he was. To prove to myself I made the right choice with you. I let out a short, bitter laugh. And how'd that work out? She didn't respond. I stood up, walked across the room. Because in that moment, I didn't trust myself to stay calm if I sat there any longer. She spoke again, voice thinner now. Nothing happened. I mean, not the way you think. I turned back. So what way did it happen, Lila? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you took a vacation from our relationship to revisit an old flame, with your mom playing travel agent. I didn't sleep with him, she said quietly. And somehow, that made it worse. Because what she didn't realize is that betrayal isn't just about the body. It's about intention. About secrecy. About smiling at someone you love while planning something they're never supposed to find out. Later that night, I called her mom. Not to scream. Not even to ask why. Just to see if she'd lie too. Denise picked up on the second ring. Alex, honey, everything okay? Did you go to Miami with Lila? Silence. Then, of course I did. Why would you ask that? That was all I needed to hear. Because I've got a folder full of photos that say otherwise. I hung up before she could respond. Denise always struck me as the polite kind of controlling, the woman who smiled through sharp suggestions and hid disappointment behind spa recommendations. I never imagined she'd lie for her daughter, let alone help her cheat. But maybe this wasn't about betrayal to her. Maybe it was about fear that her daughter wasn't ready for marriage, and if she didn't test the waters, she'd end up regretting me. The next day, Lila packed a bag. No ceremony. No fight. Just a duffel and a short note on the counter that said, I never wanted to hurt you. I just didn't know what I wanted until it was too late. She didn't ask me to forgive her. She didn't beg me to call off the wedding. And maybe that was the worst part. She knew she'd lost me. And somewhere in all this, between the rooftop bars and the whispered lies, I'd lost her too. When I opened our closet and saw the suit I was supposed to wear standing beside her on our wedding day, pressed, tailored, still wrapped in plastic, like it was waiting for a future that no longer existed, I didn't throw the suit away. Not at first. It just stayed there, plastic long gone, dust settling on the shoulders, hanging where her clothes used to be like a ghost in a rental tux. Stiff, silent, full of memories it never got to wear. Some part of me thought I'd burn it, or donate it, or just shove it in the garage like every other thing I didn't know how to face. But I didn't, because in the days that followed, I started to see the truth for what it really was, not just a weekend mistake, not a slip or a stumble. It was a roadmap, one she'd been drawing in secret. And I'd been too in love, too busy choosing her, to notice she'd already started walking away. You don't cancel a wedding with a phone call. You cancel it in pieces. The photographer, the florist, the DJ, the guy who played acoustic covers of 2000 songs because she said he made Blink 182 sound romantic. Each call felt like peeling off a layer of hope that had long since rotted. Most vendors were kind. One offered a partial refund. Another just said, I'm sorry, man. I've seen this before. The worst was the venue. We put down a hefty deposit for a vineyard just outside Santa Barbara. It was supposed to be the backdrop for our forever. When I called to cancel, the woman on the other end sounded surprised. Oh, she didn't mention anything. Lila. She called last week to confirm the guest count. I blinked. What day? Tuesday, she said. 2 days before she told me she needed space. That's when it hit me. Even while she was slipping away, even while she must have known something had shifted, she was still playing the part, still keeping up appearances. Like she didn't want to be the villain, just the girl who made it look real, until the very end. That night, I went to my best friend's house. Eli, the same guy who helped me pick out the ring, who listened to every story I told about her like it mattered, who once said, You found your person, Dan. Don't screw it up. When I showed up at his place with a six-pack and a face that said I didn't come to talk, he knew. He didn't ask questions. Just opened the door, grabbed 2 beers, and sat with me on his porch while the sun went down. After a long silence, he finally said, I always wondered. I turned. Wondered what? If she was in it like you were. I didn't respond. He nodded slowly, like he'd been carrying that doubt too. You were all in. She always felt half in, like she was keeping the door cracked. I didn't want to see it, I admitted. No one ever does, he said. Not when they love that hard. The next morning, I woke up in Eli's guest room and checked my phone. 1 missed call. Blocked number. 1 voicemail. I played it on speaker. It was Denise. Her voice sounded tired. Almost aged. Alex, I know I'm probably the last person you want to hear from. And I deserve that. But I need to say this. I thought I was protecting her. I thought, if she got closure, she'd come back stronger. I didn't think she'd go through with it. The message cut out. No apology. No clarity. Just the kind of voice people use when they realize too late they were wrong. I didn't call her back. I didn't call Lila either. What was there to say? She made her choice. And I was finally starting to believe that maybe this was a blessing in disguise. Because if she could walk away this easily, maybe she was never mine to begin with. Not really. That weekend, I cleaned out our storage closet, found the box where I'd stashed old keepsakes, cards, movie tickets, a Polaroid from our first New Year's together, her laughing, confetti in her hair. I stared at it for a long time. Then I put it in the fire pit out back, watched it curl and blacken until the flames swallowed her smile. I thought I'd feel sad, but I didn't. Not really. All I felt was lighter. And for the first time in a long time, I realized that love, real love, doesn't come with folders full of lies or trips that don't add up. It shows up, it stays, and it tells the truth, even when it hurts. Especially when it hurts. A week passed, then 2, and the silence between us grew into something bigger than absence. It became a verdict. Lila didn't reach out. No texts, no calls. Not even the coward's favorite. An email sent at 2 a.m. with a subject line that said, just wanted to explain. I thought maybe she'd come back for closure. But she didn't, and I started to understand why. Because to come back, you have to face what you broke. And some people don't have that kind of courage. People started finding out. First, my parents. My mom had picked out a dress she loved, champagne-colored with sequins. She cried when I told her it wouldn't be needed. Not dramatic tears. The quiet kind. The kind that come from watching your child hurt in a way you can't fix. My dad just nodded. Said, better now than after. He always had a way of cutting clean. Then it was the guests, friends, co-workers. My cousin Claire who booked a cross-country flight because she wouldn't miss it for the world. I kept it simple. Texted everyone a short message. The wedding's been called off. Thank you for your support. Most people didn't ask questions. Some did. One guy from work, the kind who never knows when to shut up, said, man, what happened? You guys seemed perfect. I didn't answer him. Because how do you explain to someone that love doesn't die in a car crash? It bleeds out slowly, one lie at a time. A few days later, I ran into someone unexpected. Her name was Jenna. She used to work with Lila, back when Lila was in events management. I saw her at a coffee shop downtown. She recognized me first. Walked over with that hesitant kind of smile people wear when they're not sure what version of you they're about to meet. I heard, she said gently. I nodded. Yeah. She hesitated, then said something that stuck with me. I always wondered if she was chasing the life, or just the pictures of it. I blinked. What do you mean? She loved the idea of being engaged, planning things, picking colors, posting about the journey. But when it came to talking about you, it felt thinner, like she was reading lines someone else wrote. That sat with me all day, because maybe that's what it was all along. Maybe she loved the stage, but not the play. One night, I found myself driving toward the old apartment we toured together before we found the place we actually moved into. It had a little balcony and creaky stairs. She hated the carpet. I loved the light in the kitchen. We almost signed the lease. Almost. I parked across the street. Just sat there, headlights off, engine ticking in the cool night. I wasn't hoping to see her. I wasn't hoping for anything. I just wanted to remember who I was before all this. Before proposals and Pinterest boards and folders full of photos I never asked to receive. Back at home, I stood in front of the closet again. The suit was still hanging, quiet, unclaimed, so I took it down, removed the plastic, held it up to the light. Then I laid it gently in the donation box by the door. Because here's the truth I'd finally stopped running from. The man who bought that suit, He deserved someone who knew how to stay. Someone who didn't have to test the water every time commitment felt real. Someone who didn't need a weekend escape to realize what she already had. And that man, me, wasn't going to wait around hoping she became that person. They say healing isn't linear. They're right. Some days, I missed her so much I could barely breathe. Other days, I felt nothing but relief. But every day, I got a little more honest with myself about what love is and what it's not. It's not secrecy. It's not silence. And it sure as hell isn't found in a folder full of lies, slid across a coffee table like a final exam. I didn't expect to see her again. But 2 months after everything fell apart, she showed up. Just like that. No warning. No text ahead of time. Just the sound of a knock at my front door on a quiet Sunday morning. I almost didn't open it. But curiosity, or maybe some leftover piece of what we used to be, pulled me off the couch. And in the back of my mind, I wondered if something had shifted. A therapy breakthrough. A moment of guilt. Or maybe just the weight of silence finally getting too loud. She looked smaller. Not physically. Just dimmed. Like someone had turned the brightness down on her spirit. She wore a gray sweater, no makeup, and her hair pulled back like she hadn't bothered to pretend today was normal. She said my name once, soft and uncertain. Alex. I didn't say anything. Just stepped aside and let her in. She stood in the living room for a second, arms crossed, eyes flicking to the coffee table, like she half expected the folder to still be there. It wasn't. That part of the story had already been burned. She glanced at the walls. The photos that were no longer hanging. The empty hooks where our shared life used to live. You changed things, she said. Yeah, I replied. Silence. Then she said something I didn't see coming. My mom and I aren't speaking. I raised an eyebrow. That's supposed to make me feel better? She shook her head. No. Just thought you should know. I just let the silence answer. Because I wasn't sure what part of me still cared. She finally sat down. Same couch where she'd once opened our wedding registry with a laptop on her knees and a smile in her eyes. Now she looked like she didn't recognize the room. I've been in therapy, she said. Still, I didn't say much. Not out of cruelty. Just out of distance. It's strange how someone can go from home to stranger in the span of a few choices. She continued. I needed to understand why I did what I did. Why I ran towards something I already knew didn't fit. Did you figure it out? She nodded. Slowly. I was scared. I gave a humorless laugh. Of what? Me. Of everything. Of being seen. Of being loved by someone who didn't need to fix me. I kept waiting for the other shoe to drop. So I dropped it myself. She looked down, rubbed her hands together like they were cold, then added, I didn't sleep with him. I leaned forward. Lila, I don't care. She blinked, caught off guard. I don't care what you did or didn't do with Tyler. Because the real damage didn't come from your body. It came from your choices. From the lie. From dragging your mom into it. From looking me in the eye and still letting me believe I was the only one in the room. She nodded. Eyes wet now. I wanted to apologize. You just did. She flinched a little, like she'd been hoping for more, for some soft place to land. But I didn't have one to offer. Not anymore. She stood to leave, reached into her bag, pulled out a small envelope. This was in my journal. I started it the week before the trip. Her voice softened. I finished it after everything fell apart. She handed it to me, then walked to the door, paused, and looked back. For what it's worth, she said, I think you would have made a really good husband. And then she left. I didn't open the envelope for 2 days. When I finally did, it was a single page. A letter addressed to me. It read, Alex, if I'm being honest, I don't know if I deserve you. I think part of me has always been afraid that I never really earned the life we were building. That one day, you'd wake up and realize I was just pretending to be someone ready. But here's the truth I couldn't say out loud. I loved you. I still do. I just didn't love myself enough to believe I was capable of being chosen without conditions. If I hurt you, and I know I did, it was never because you weren't enough. It was because I couldn't see past my own reflection. You deserve better. You still do. L. I folded the letter, put it in a drawer I rarely open. Not because I needed to keep it, but because I needed to forgive the version of me who once believed that love had to be earned by staying silent through doubt. And maybe, in some quiet way, she was trying to forgive that part of herself too. Tom didn't rush to heal me. It moved like molasses. Slow, heavy, thick with memory. But it moved. And one morning, months after the knock on my door, the letter, the truth unraveled in quiet confession, I woke up and didn't think of her first. I thought about coffee, about a project at work, about the weather. And just like that, The wound became a scar. Life resumed, not like it had before, but in a way that felt steadier, truer. I joined a weekend hiking group, started volunteering at a community center a few blocks from my apartment, reconnected with friends I'd let drift when I was too busy planning a wedding. I even started dating again, slowly, cautiously. I didn't dive head first. I stepped, because once you've built a life with someone who folded lies between your sheets, you learn to feel out the shape of honesty before you open your heart again. One night, I found myself back at the vineyard, not for a wedding, for a charity event a friend invited me to. Same fairy lights strung across the courtyard. Same hilltop view we once said felt like the beginning of something bigger. I stood there, holding a glass of wine, watching the sun dip behind the trees, and I didn't feel bitter. I felt quiet, still, like someone who'd finally made peace with the chapter that didn't end the way he thought it would. That's the thing about closures. They don't arrive with fanfare or dramatic scenes. They settle in like dusk, soft, unannounced, until one day you realize you're not chasing daylight anymore. A few weeks later, I got a card in the mail. Handwritten. No return address. But I knew the handwriting. I saw you at the vineyard, it said. Didn't say hi. I didn't want to interrupt the peace you looked like you'd earned. I hope it's real. I hope it lasts. L. I read it once, then placed it gently in the same drawer where her letter lived, right beside the engagement ring I never returned. Not out of sentiment, just as a reminder that even the best intentions can break you. And sometimes, that break is what sets you free. The last thing I'll say, love isn't a folder. It isn't proof. It isn't photos or timelines or stories that add up cleanly. It's showing up, choosing someone, fully, honestly, when it's easy and especially when it's not. I don't hate Lila. I think, in her own way, she was doing the best she could with the tools she had. But she wasn't ready. And maybe I wasn't either. Not for the version of love I was pretending we had. But now I know better. And when I love again, and I will, it won't be built on silence, or doubt, or needing someone to convince me they're sure. Because next time, I won't chase certainty. I'll feel it. I'll know. And that love, it won't ask me to question it. It'll stay.